G'day guys, Win here and welcome home to Fallout 4. I've been playing this for the last couple of days and really enjoying it so far. So I'm going to run through a few quick tips I hope might help for people who are like me and new to the Fallout series. I've never played a Fallout game before, and although I've played Skyrim, another Bethesda game, which shares some very similar features, there's a couple of quirks in Fallout that maybe aren't immediately obvious. First thing to talk about is stats. Strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intellect, agility and luck, or special for short. They each influence your gameplay in a certain way. I won't run through each of them in detail here, I might save that for another video, but in the meantime there are a million guides on the internet that should help get you started. What I would suggest is that before you jump into Fallout, you do a little bit of research on how you might like to tackle the game, because during the first few minutes you'll be asked to assign a number of skill points across these stats. You want to do it in a way that lends itself to your style of play. For example, do you like to stay back and snipe your enemies, or are you all about getting up in people's business with a sledgehammer? Don't agonize over every single point because theoretically you can over time max out each of these stats, but that would take a lot of gameplay, and if you're anything like me, you probably won't reach that stage. The stat levels also influence what perks you can take as you level up. Perks are additional character traits that will augment your gameplay in one way or another. For example, you can take a lockpicking skill that allows you to pick higher level locks, or you can take a perk to increase the melee damage you do. These perks have both a stat requirement and a character level requirement. For example, the first rank of Gun Nut requires your character to be level 1, and you have an intellect of at least 4. You can unlock one perk per level up if your level and stats are high enough. Or you can choose to invest that level up point to increase one of your base special stats. And because there's no level cap in Fallout 4, you can eventually max out each of your special stats. Next we have companions. This is a feature I'm familiar with from Skyrim, but it's been in previous Fallout games as well. Basically, companions are AI-controlled teammates who can help you out by attacking enemies and so on. You'll eventually get a choice of a number of companions, the most famous of which from all of the trailers is Dogmeat, your faithful German Shepherd. There are perks that will buff your companions as well if you want to make the most of them, or alternatively you can take the Lone Wanderer perk which increases your personal stats at the cost of not taking a companion with you. Next we'll cover inventory management. Now if you've played Fallout or Skyrim before, this should be pretty familiar to you, but if you're used to games with a slot-based inventory, like you're currently carrying 5 of 30 items, and each item just takes up one slot regardless of its size, Fallout might feel a bit foreign to you. Because of the sheer variety of stuff you can pick up, Bethesda have gone down a possibly more realistic route of how much you can carry based on weight. So you can carry any number of items up to a certain weight limit. The weight limit of what you can carry is ultimately driven by your strength stat. The higher your strength, the more you can carry. Each item is given a weight value, with smaller or lighter items having lower values. These all add up, and once you hit your weight limit, you can keep picking more stuff up. You'll move very slowly and you can't fast travel anymore, so you have to do something about it fairly quick. Now, I'm a hoarder, so I hit this limit all the damn time, but luckily there's a very useful solution which may not be immediately obvious, and that's your companions. You can trade with your companions and ask them to hold all of the stuff you don't need immediately, like your junk, spare weapons, armor, and so on. That way, you can keep collecting without having to worry about leaving valuable resources behind. If there's a limit to how much your companion can carry, I haven't hit it yet, and things don't seem to go missing. But I'm not liable if you lose your favourite weapon because Dogmeat wanders off and loses it. And yes, Dogmeat can be your pack mule just as much as any of the companions. God knows where he stores it all. So why keep all of this stuff anyway? Well, I'm glad you asked. Almost everything you collect can either be used as weapons or armor, or it can be broken down to modify your weapons or armor. In most of the towns or settlements you come across, there'll be workstations where you can use the stuff you've collected to add components to your guns and armor to improve or change how they work. You can add a better stock and longer barrel to your pistol, for example, to increase its range and accuracy. You can also store all of your junk and excess items at these workstations to have access to them later. There's also the option of using these materials to build upon the settlements themselves by adding walls, roofs, beds, food, water, turrets, and a whole bunch of things. You can turn a ramshackle little town into a sprawling post-apocalyptic metropolis, which can over time give you access to different vendors, income streams, and more. Settlement building definitely deserves a whole video on its own, which I'll do soon, but for now you'll come across a side quest pretty early in the story which will teach you the basics. The last thing I wanted to cover today is the Vault-Tec Assisted Targeting System, or VATS for short. This is an alternative way to play out the combat in Fallout 4. You can use the left trigger to aim and the right trigger to fire just like you would in any other shooter, or you can use VATS. Well actually, you'll more likely end up using a mix of the two. So what VATS does is effectively slow down time and zoom in on your target. It will highlight the different body areas you can target on the enemy, like head, torso, arms, etc., and the percentage that you're likely to hit each. You can cycle the areas using the left stick, or change the enemy you're focusing on by using the right stick. Once you've chosen the area you want to try and hit, press the right trigger to select it. You can select to hit the same spot or multiple spots up to a limit determined by your action points. Once you've selected everything you want to target, hit X and you'll enter a sort of cutscene where your character will automatically fire his or her weapon at the spots you selected. If your target doesn't die, you'll need to fall back to the regular point and shoot method, or you could even wait for your action points to regenerate and enter VATS again. As you hit enemy during a VATS sequence, you build your critical hit meter. Once it's full, you can use square during the attack phase of VATS to execute a critical hit and do bonus damage. Now VATS isn't for everyone, and if you just want to use your weapons normally, you can definitely do that. Aiming down sights and firing like a normal shooter is pretty effective in Fallout 4. I have heard that in previous Fallouts it wasn't so useful, but the gunplay in Fallout 4 is cool. I find VATS is helpful to slow down combat a bit so you can think about the best way to approach it, especially when you're getting swarmed by multiple baddies. And that's it for today's video. I hope it helped you out, and I hope you're enjoying Fallout 4. I personally am loving it so far, and I'm going to work on some more tip videos to go into a little bit more detail on the various aspects of this massive game. Let me know if there's anything you'd like to see. Cheers guys.